Good morning, my dear students. In this particular lecture, we are going to study different types of cycles. Okay, we are going to see different types of gaseous cycles. So to begin with, we are going to start with the carbon cycle. Okay, so the circulation and recycling of carbon from the atmosphere to living organisms and after their death back to the atmosphere is called the carbon cycle. So what is carbon cycle? Okay, it is the circulation and recycling of carbon. So suppose carbon which is utilized by the living organisms, okay, from the atmosphere. Which living organism is going to utilize this carbon? Most amount of carbon is utilized by the trees, okay. So trees are going to use this carbon, okay. They are going to perform their task with the help of this carbon. The photosynthesis process is going to be performed. But after the death of that particular species, that is plant, okay, they are going the in the atmosphere, this carbon is going to be recycled again, okay. देखो जो कार्बन है उसका सर्कुलेशन होगा, उसका यूटिलाइजेशन होगा एनिमल्स की तरफ से और प्लांट्स की तरफ से, ओके। प्लांट्स और एनिमल्स कार्बन का इस्तेमाल कर लेंगे और एक बार वो एनिमल या फिर प्लांट का डेथ हो गया तो उसकी बॉडी क्या होगी? डिकम्पोज होगी। और वो डिकम्पोजिशन होते समय जो कार्बन है वो वापस एटमॉस्फेयर में मिक्स होने वाला है, ओके। Now, abiotic carbon atoms are circulated and recycled into biotic form mainly through photosynthesis and respiration. Now, this abiotic carbon atoms, okay, which are released from sedimentary rocks or by other chemical processes which are performed in the environment. So, these carbon atoms are going to be circulated, okay, and recycled in the form of biotic nature, okay, in the biotic form. And this abiotic carbon atoms are going to be utilized in the process called photosynthesis by plants and respiration. Okay. Now, hence, the carbon cycle is one of the important biogeochemical cycles. As this particular cycle, carbon cycle, is directly related to photosynthesis process and respiration. Okay, it is very much important cycle. Okay. Now, plants convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrates by the process of photosynthesis. The carbon atoms, okay, or the carbon dioxide, which is exhaled by the animals, okay, that carbon dioxide is used by the plants, okay, for performing a process called photosynthesis. And when the photosynthesis process is completed, the plants are going to produce carbohydrates. Okay. Similarly, they produce carbon compounds like proteins and fats too. Okay. With the help of carbon dioxide, other proteins, other compounds like proteins and fats are also going to be produced. Herbivores feed upon plants. Carnivores feed upon herbivores. In this way, biotic carbon is transported from plants to herbivores, then from herbivores to carnivores, and from carnivores to apex consumers. Okay, so the first, at initial stage, the carbon dioxide was exhaled by the animals. That carbon dioxide was used by the plants to produce food. Then herbivores are going to feed upon that food or plant. Then carnivores are going to eat the herbivores, okay. And again, this carnivores, okay, feed upon herbivores. In this way, biotic carbon is transported from plants to herbivores. You can see the transfer is done, the transfer of carbon atoms or carbon dioxide is happening from plants to herbivores and from herbivores to carnivores. And again, when apex consumer consumes the carnivores, it is transferred from carnivores to apex consumers. Now, here, the main process in carbon cycle is it is represented with the help of equations. Okay, in the equation you can see 6 CO2. Okay, so carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide is reacted with the 12 molecules of water H2O, and whenever these two compounds are going to react with each other in the presence of sunlight, okay, So what we are going to get, we are going to get glucose C6H12O6, okay, as a product, and 6H2O, that is 6 molecules of water, and 6 molecules of oxygen, okay, 6 CO2. And this 6 O2 oxygen, 6 molecules of oxygen is going to be released by the plant. देखो प्रोसेस कैसे हो रहा है प्लांट में। प्लांट क्या कर रहा है, CO2 को एब्जॉर्ब कर रहा है। प्लांट में जो वाटर मॉलिक्यूल्स प्रेजेंट है, वो वाटर मॉलिक्यूल्स का रिएक्शन CO2 के साथ होगा। ओके, ये प्रोसेस को परफॉर्म करने के लिए प्लांट को सनलाइट की ज़रूरत है, और ये प्रोसेस कहाँ पे परफॉर्म होने वाला है, प्लांट के क्लोरोफिल में परफॉर्म होगा। ओके, जब कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड के 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स और वाटर के 12 मॉलिक्यूल्स एक दूसरे के साथ रिएक्ट करेंगे, तो हमें ग्लूकोज का एक मॉलिक्यूल मिलने वाला है। सो C6H12O6, इट इज द फॉर्मूला ऑफ ग्लूकोज। ओके, along with this we are going to get 6 molecules of water as a byproduct and 6 molecules of oxygen. Okay, and this oxygen is going to be released by the plant. Okay, और यही ऑक्सीजन को हम लोग क्या करते हैं, इनहेल करते हैं। नाउ आफ्टर इनहेलिंग दिस ऑक्सीजन, जैसे ही हम लोग ये ऑक्सीजन को इनहेल करते हैं, 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स ऑफ O2, व्हाट विल हैपन, it is going to react with the glucose molecule which is there in our body, okay, which is there in our cell, and this glucose molecule and 6 molecules of oxygen are going to react, okay, and the mitochondria, which is called as powerhouse of the cell, okay, in this particular powerhouse of the cell, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide are going to be produced along with the 6 molecules of water, and energy is going to be utilized by the body. Okay, when this second reaction is going to take place, at that time you can see that oxygen which is inhaled by the living organism, okay, by the animals, is utilized to create energy, to form energy, and carbon dioxide, the molecules of CO2 are being produced as a byproduct, and this 6 CO2 is going to be released out by the animal. So in this particular example you can see that the cycle is repetitive. Okay, सबसे पहले 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड यूटिलाइज हुआ, प्लांट ने यूटिलाइज किया उसका, ओके, फोटोसिंथेसिस प्रोसेस परफॉर्म किया प्लांट ने, ग्लूकोज को प्रोड्यूस किया, मतलब क्या, फूड को प्रोड्यूस किया, ओके, और 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स वाटर के भी प्रोड्यूस हुए उसके साथ में, और जो ऑक्सीजन के 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स क्रिएट हुए, प्रोड्यूस हुए, उसको प्लांट ने क्या कर दिया, रिलीज कर दिया अपने बॉडी से, क्योंकि प्लांट के लिए वो क्या था, बाय प्रोडक्ट था। फिर वही ऑक्सीजन के मॉलिक्यूल्स को हम लोग ने इनहेल किया, क्योंकि उसकी हमें ज़रूरत है। ओके, अब हमने इनहेल किया है ऑक्सीजन को, उसी के साथ साथ हमें मालूम है कि हमारी बॉडी में C6H12O6 होगा, मतलब ग्लूकोज होगा। ये ग्लूकोज हमें किससे मिल रहा है, फूड से मिल रहा है, जो हम लोग प्लांट को कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं उसी फूड से हमें मिल रहा है ग्लूकोज। तो वो ग्लूकोज और ऑक्सीजन का वापस रिएक्शन होगा, ओके, और माइटोकॉन्ड्रिया विच इज पावर हाउस ऑफ द सेल, वहां पे एनर्जी प्रोड्यूस होंगी, एनर्जी का क्रिएशन होगा, और एज अ बाय प्रोडक्ट क्या मिलने वाला है, क्या मिलने वाला है हम लोग को, 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स मिलेंगे CO2 के। ये जो 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स है CO2 के, ये हमारी बॉडी क्या कर देगी, रिलीज कर देगी, मतलब हम लोग क्या करने वाले हैं यहाँ पे, एक्सहेल करने वाले हैं 6 मॉलिक्यूल्स CO2 के। Okay, again this 6 CO2 is going to be utilized by the plant, food is going to be produced, oxygen is going to be released out, again we are going to use that oxygen, okay, we are going to produce the energy, 6 CO2 is going to be released out. So in this way we can see that the carbon dioxide is utilized by the plant again and again, and the cycle is continuous. Okay, now, eventually, after death, all types of consumer are decomposed by decomposers like bacteria and fungi, and carbon dioxide is released again into the atmosphere and is used again by the living organism. Suppose after using this energy and all these molecules, okay, after certain time, the living organism is going to die. Okay, once the living organism is died, that is consumer is died. Okay, after death of the consumer, decomposers are going to decompose that body. Okay, dead body is going to be decomposed by the decomposers. Okay, the examples of decomposers as given here, it is bacteria and fungi. Okay, when these decomposers are going to decompose the dead body of the consumer, at that time the CO2 is going to be released again in the atmosphere, and the same CO2 is going to be used by other living organisms. In this way, carbon is continuously passed on from one living organism to another living organism. After the death of living organisms, carbon goes to the atmosphere and is again taken up by living organisms. Okay. Now, do you know that carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere through abiotic processes like burning of fossil fuels and wood? Okay, forest fires and volcanic activity. So CO2 is not only released by the human beings or animals, but it is also released by due to burning of fossil fuels. Okay, whenever we are going to burn kerosene, petrol, diesel, or any other fuel, or we are whenever we burn wood, or whenever forest fire takes place or volcanic eruption takes place, at that time also carbon dioxide is released in the atmosphere in a very large quantity. Okay, now oxygen is released into the atmosphere by the biotic process of photosynthesis and CO2 through respiration. So oxygen is released from plants, okay, after the completion of photosynthesis process, whereas CO2 is released by the animals, okay, via respiration. Now, the equilibrium of oxygen and carbon dioxide gases in the atmosphere is maintained by plants. We have to keep this in mind. The amount of CO2 is going to be maintained by the plants only. Okay, if the amount of CO2 increases in the atmosphere or in the environment, it is going to affect the earth or ecosystem in a ill manner. Okay, now we are going to see another cycle, that is oxygen cycle, okay, and nitrogen cycle in the next lecture. Okay, until then, goodbye.